Good evening, everyone. I am Toy Majabella for Planet Pathlings, and I'm the Wednesday host. And I was asked to do a topic, and I'm late getting it up because I've been having a little bit of trouble with it. Because I've been going into some sort of kind of deep reflection this season, and it's been very difficult for me to do the video like I thought it should be done. But my topic was, when did Yule become Christmas? And my thoughts started out with the Starbucks holiday coffee cup setting off this year's War on Christmas campaign. And I call it a campaign because it is carefully orchestrated by the powers that be to wedge further divides in our diverse communities for political gain. This, of course, is a rehashing of an updating of the old War on Merry Christmas campaign that lost its momentum as trite when people say Happy Holidays. Understanding that this is a season celebrated by many faiths for differing reasons. Why are the Christian zealots so angry? I say zealots because with all things, some of them do not mean all. And the zealots of any religion cause problems for the whole, while maintaining a position of being more faithful and more religious than the rest. And therein lies the rub. I don't believe that just Christian zealots cause these problems, because I think that there is a campaign of pagans trying to do basically the same thing as the Christians, coming from a different point of view. So what is Christmas? Christmas Day is an annual festival commemorating the birth of Jesus Christ, observed more commonly on December 25th as a religious and cultural celebration among billions of people around the world. So let's look into what makes Christmas Christmas. Let's start with Christ. Christ is Greek for the Hebrew word Messiah, meaning the anointed one. Another way of saying the chosen one, chosen by God to the Jews of the Jewish faith. They had a prophecy of this Messiah coming, but they say Jesus didn't fulfill the prophecy, so they do not recognize him as such. To the Muslims, he was chosen by God as the prophet, the second only to Muhammad, but they do not believe that he was the Son of God, nor do they believe that he was crucified, but lifted straight up back to God, the same way as Muhammad was. To be considered, he had to be born and live under special auspicious star patterns, alignments, and astrology, which his birth did indicate. However, his birthing was in the sign of Leo, which is the end of July, beginning of August. This is a requirement to be the king of Israel, and historically evidence bears out. Then, why is Christmas in December? This was a time, probably because there's not any solid facts on this, but this is probably the time of Jesus' baptism by John the Baptist. And it was very much probably a chosen point in time by Jesus, because everything in his life was done by star patterns, movements, and seasons, because his life had to reflect as above as below, and this would be a mythology of the winter solstice would be something that he would have been aware of, and its importance, because it crosses over to people from far beyond what we would call religious practices. This is something that has been happening since probably man developed into having a thinking brain and started trying to really put together the pieces of where we came from, how we work, the psychology of the human mind. And so the winter solstice, being a point of the shortest day of the year, also a time when, generally speaking, where most of the origins of Yule season came was a very cold climate of a lot of snow and ice. And so this was a time of lean and hard times as well. And so the dark time was a time of inner reflection, and a lot of people died through this point. And so there was a lot of things about hitting this point and knowing that the sun was only going to start growing in power. So Jesus would have, in my opinion, picked a very auspicious day for his baptism to set the stage for his new message that he was going to be bringing in the form of reform of all of his religious teachings at that point. So it was a rebirth. It was the beginning, it was the awakening, it was the rebirth. And being that this was what he was trying to fulfill in his prophecies, I think it's very logical that this would be one of those times. However, his church that was formed after his crucifixion and through the forming of his later years as he was doing his new philosophies and religious perspectives and beginning to form the new church, he they didn't see a point in celebrating Christmas because they didn't want to celebrate a pagan holiday. The Romans had the Romans and a few others had a tradition of honoring the birthday of their leaders, and it was considered a very pagan practice to even have and celebrate birthdays. So therefore, the church had a lot of people in argument against bringing forth this particular festival. They did have a festival of the Epiphany, which happens on January 6th, but they somehow or another started around 300 years after Christ's death, started to put forth this festival of Jesus' birthday. Now, with a lot of religions, we start to lose the reason why we do things, and a lot of times we only do it because that's what we're supposed to do, because that's all we've known to do, and the generation before, that's what they always did because that's what they only knew to do. And through the years, a lot of things lose a lot of real meaning and religious momentum. I think that people lose the idea of why we practice what we practice. As far as Yule is of Germanic origins, and if you're not really following a Germanic path, then again, you have borrowed Yule just as the Christians borrowed a lot of things from Yule as well. But you see, I don't see it that way. What I see is that these markers in the turning of our own earth and star patterns and seasons and everything that we do as down to the elements, the four directions, all of these things are held in our subconscious collective. So they don't belong to one faith, one way, one path, one preference. They belong to all of us. And the themes are written over and over and over in all of these different kinds of cultural practices. So when you go back and you start studying, a lot of the world's religions will have the same holidays. There are reasons for that, and it is not because they're stealing somebody else's practice. They may, of course, morph a practice into their own version of the story, but their story is basically telling you the same moral. And so Christians taking it and spreading the Christian message would not be so different than what us pagans do as well, or what there's also Hanukkah at this time, and there is the newer religious practice of Kwanzaa. All of these things, it's not to say that somebody stepped on, stole, or did all of these kind of things. These ideas morph because that is just what we do. And through time, all of these different kinds of practices will morph, and you will see very common things running through many different religions. I guess because I come from a very eclectic path, I look at it as just the way it is. I don't see that there needs to be a divide between pagans or Christians. I do understand that pagans have been ostracized for a very long time for their beliefs by the Christians, but I don't think that it's necessarily every Christian that does this. I think it is, again, the powers that be, the powers that want other things for us, and you really have to look at people's motivations is when they start this stuff. So when I looked at that Starbucks campaign, I thought, what did Starbucks do wrong? They presented a red cup, and it wasn't Christian enough. Well, you know, the cup the previous year wasn't Christian either. It had snowflakes and stuff on it. I don't even remember what all it had on it. But it wasn't so much about Christian values. But the thing is, a coffee cup shouldn't be about Christian values, and it shouldn't be about pagan values either. It has nothing to do with anything of our season. So the real message that I would like to extend through all of this is to understand that no matter what pantheon you choose to follow, do your research. Understand why you do what you do. I encourage everybody to look into, if you have a Christmas tree or a Yule tree, look into why you have the tree in your home. Look at what you do with the tree. Does the tree have the meaning? And I believe that it will have significant meaning to no matter what faith you practice. If you are Jewish and it's the Hanukkah lights, I say celebrate whatever it is that you choose. But to start worrying about what everybody else is doing, to me, is a problem. And I don't care whether you're a Christian attacking a pagan or a pagan attacking a Christian for it. I don't see any reason to throw something up in someone else's face ever, and especially at this time of year, to say, you just stole that from us. Well, you know, I put on my Facebook earlier today about Christians feeling under attack. And it was a picture of a Native American, and it said that, so the Christians feel attacked. But to remember that up until 1978, and yes, 1978, that it was against the law and a crime for Native Americans to practice their religious rites and ceremonies. So just keep that into perspective about who you think is attacking who. We've all been under attack at one time or another. And I don't care whether you're a Christian. The Jewish people know about being under attack. Hitler was a big one. And you know what? The people who live in these Arab countries right now, I'm sure they're feeling pretty much under attack as well. And even if it is by their own people. And Or is it the CIA that created ISIS? Or is it, does it really matter? People are suffering out there, and we are often attacked by our religious preferences. And you know what? Why? Why would anybody need to attack somebody else because of their religious preference? I don't go around throwing it in other people's face what my practices are. I don't force anybody into my beliefs. I just try to accept and I try to learn from other people's beliefs. I like to have intellectual conversations with people and understand why they do what they do. But through a lot of that, and I'm not going to get into any particular faith or line, most of the time what disturbs me most is they don't know why they do what they do. That they haven't got the bigger picture as to why any of these practices are in place. And that, to me, if you've not stopped to reflect as to why you choose to do what you do, that would be what I would encourage you to do, so that you can stand tall in your beliefs and share your beliefs with people who want to know, but share it very informed instead of, I've always done it, this is what has always been, and this is why you're going to hell, and you're not going. You know what? That isn't helpful. It doesn't make your case. It is stupidity at its finest. And so to me, it's just learning to accept and get along. That there will be people that do things that are not what you believe. And that's perfectly fine to simply agree to disagree. But to have conversations as to why people do what they do, sometimes that understanding is the very thing that the world needs most. And so I encourage you, again, like I said, that if there is something that you do very unconsciously, and you just do it because everyone around you has always done it and you were raised to do it, look into why you do it. And it's not to challenge you not to do it. It's just to say, this is the true meaning behind why we perform this, or do this, or say that, or bring in the tree and put the ornaments on it, or, sing Christmas carols, and maybe you'll find that you can reignite passions in your practices that will bring you closer on your spiritual path to your deities, your loved ones, however you see to choose to practice and put forth in the world. It is an intellectual exercise of bringing yourself closer spiritually to what you believe. And you may find that there's some things that, well, that's stupid, why am I doing that? But if it is something that brings you comfort, joy, because you want to pass the tradition down to your family, then go for it. It doesn't make any difference what other people think. So if you're a pagan, that because you were raised in a Christian family for so long, you do Christian things, well, just remember that there are also pagan roots to everything that you do, and it is not in conflict to your spiritual path. So just go about figuring out what it is that you do and be okay with it. If someone doesn't like the fact that you say Merry Christmas or you say Happy Yule, you know what? That's their problem, not yours. Be yourself. Do as you see fit. As long as you're not harming anybody, go for it. And I just want to say Happy Holidays, because that just pisses some people off, I guess. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and have a very, very blessed Yule. Yule starts tomorrow, and I can't wait because it is the big kickoff to all of my celebrations. So I just want to wish y'all also a very blessed new year, since I probably won't see you until the beginning of January again. Thank you, and y'all have a wonderful day.